So I've just finished up my series on mini cutting where I gave you 4 weeks, week by week, on the process that I took to lose a bunch of body fat without losing a ton of muscle at the same time. I ate in a very aggressive deficit, and the whole time I was saying so many times that you should probably not be doing this. And throughout that whole process, you had a lot of questions as viewers. You were dropping in the comment section, you were messaging me them privately, I even got an email. So yeah, we had a lot of questions, and I've collated all of those questions into a Q&A video today so I can give you a good detailed explanation to all of them rather than typing it out individually. Most of these have been condensed into one question where the same thing was asked a few times. So if your specific question didn't get answered, listen out because it's probably in here somewhere. The first question is, how aggressive should your deficit be on a mini cut compared to a traditional cut? And this is a really good question because that's essentially what defines the difference between the two. For a standard cut, you're looking at anywhere between 0.5 to 1% of body weight loss per week, and you're looking at around 6 to 12 weeks for that diet. The longer the cut, the slower the rate of weight loss should be, and a mini cut follows that same principle. So for a mini cut, you are looking at 2 to 6 weeks, much shorter than a traditional cut, and because it's much shorter, the rate of weight loss will be 1% on the low end and 2.5% on the really high end. Personally, I did a 4-week cut and I went for a 1.5% body weight loss per week, so bang on in the middle of what defines a mini cut. So if we break down an example, we can get some idea of actual calorie amounts. So if we take a 70 kilogram individual, you want to lose 1.5% per week. That is 1.05 kilograms per week. That equals 2.3 pounds, and 2.3 pounds is an 8,085 calorie deficit. If we divide those 8,085 calories by 7 to get a daily deficit rather than a weekly deficit, you have a 1,155 calorie daily deficit. So if you have a maintenance calorie intake of 2,500 calories, you are now eating 1,345 calories. It's not a lot of calories, but remember, it can get away with being this aggressive because it doesn't need to be sustainable because it's for a short amount of time. As soon as those calories become unsustainable, you're out of the diet anyway. Thank you for your question. The next question is, how do you know you're actually losing fat? Because so much of what you see on the scale is going to be water weight. Again, really good question. Mini cuts, by definition, are for experienced dieters. I know my body, I know what calorie intakes are going to allow me to lose fat, and I know how I respond to a deficit because I've done this loads of times before. And when I dipped into my mini cut, I was way below that number. So I knew what I needed to lose fat, and I was like, here. So it essentially comes down to trusting the process. I'd done the calculations, so I knew what I needed to do to get to that end goal. I trusted my knowledge, I trusted my background, and I trusted those calculations. So you just follow it and you know it's going to happen. Water weight will definitely skew the scales, but it doesn't change the fact that you are in a deficit. And losing a ton of water weight in a very short amount of time is indicative of being in a calorie deficit, because the reason you're losing that water weight is because you aren't holding the fluid from all the carbs that you're eating. So if you're not eating loads of carbs, you're probably in a deficit. And yes, in those first 2 weeks of the diet, you are going to have some crazy water weight losses, but it does kind of even out after that. So if 2 weeks into a 4-week diet, you don't seem quite on pace, or maybe you're going too fast, when things start to even out, you can start to make adjustments then. The next question is, what is your opinion on fat loss sprints? For example, exercise for cheat meals did 1,000 calories per day for 2 weeks to shed some fat as quickly as possible. And in my honest opinion, fat loss sprints is just a marketing term for mini cuts. Mini cuts is just a marketing term for a diet. Like, it's all just words for the same thing. Yes, what he did is a super extreme version of a mini cut, and you can call it a fat loss sprint if you want, that's fine, but at the end of the day, it's all just mini cuts. Mini cuts are a sliding scale. You've got super aggressive and you've got relatively aggressive, then you've got longer and you've got shorter. And wherever you land on that scale dictates the opposite thing. It dictates if you want a longer mini cut, then it automatically becomes less aggressive. If you want a shorter one, it automatically becomes more aggressive. What Exercise for Cheat Meals did was a 10-day mini cut. So when you are bringing the time down so low, the deficit automatically goes really high because that's how it's calculated. What you've also got to remember though is that 1,000 calories a day, yes, it has that shock factor to it, like 1,000 calories a day. But for some people, if you're a small petite female, you might maintain on 1,200 a day. So then 1,000 calories a day isn't a fat loss sprint. It's not some crazy diet. That's just a very small calorie deficit of 200 a day. So you have to look at the context behind these numbers, because it's all good saying 1,000 calorie fat loss sprint, but unless you're burning over 2,000 calories a day, then it's not even an aggressive surplus. Next question is, what cardio are you doing and how many days a week are you lifting? And just to cover the lifting quickly, I'm training 6 days a week as usual. I always train 6 days a week. I like training 6 days a week, so that is what I'm doing. My sessions have become much shorter because I'm training at minimum effective volume, maintenance volume when you're on a mini cut. And because of that, the session durations are lower, but when you are dead from a mini cut, that's actually quite nice. In terms of cardio, I have done 0 formal cardio, and when I say formal cardio, that means getting on a treadmill or going for a run or going on a rowing machine, anything like that. What I have been doing is steps. Before this mini cut, I was around 15 to 18,000 steps a day just in my lifestyle as a busy, active individual. And on this mini cut, I've added in extra walks during the day, parking further away, all that kind of stuff. So I've actually been averaging 25,000 steps, which is crazy, and some days my feet hurt. But again, it doesn't need to be sustainable because it's only for a short amount of time. So hopefully that answers your question. The next question is an important one, and that is, if you are somebody who is morbidly obese and you need to lose over 200 pounds, can you or should you do a mini cut? And I'm releasing a video soon, which is 5 reasons to do a mini cut. And I guarantee you, this is not going to be on there because you are the last person who should be doing a mini cut. Seriously. Mini cuts are for people who are athletes, who are bodybuilders, who need to stay within a tight body fat range, because if stage is this body fat, you want to be above that because that's healthy, but you don't want to be past a certain point because then you have to lose tons of fat to get to stage. So basically, stage weight is here, your healthy range is here, and you don't want to go beyond it. So a mini cut just keeps you going back and forth between that healthy range when you're in the off season, so you are never too far away from your competitive weight. You can also do this if you're lean and you just want to stay looking good and look good on the beach. Obviously that's fine, but what I'm essentially saying is morbidly obese people should not be doing mini cuts. They are not sustainable. They are not for sustained fat loss. They are for temporary fat loss to then purposely gain that fat back in continued massing phases. If you are morbidly obese, you need to slow down, take your time, learn how to diet, learn your body, learn your preferences, lose that weight slowly over a long period of time so that you can keep it off and diet successfully. And then, only then, long in the future, maybe you can do a mini cut. And the last question is my favorite by far. I think it's an incredible question, so I'm going to read it word for word. And that is, do you think your standards for what's fluffy in terms of body fat percentage may be a bit too skewed to the lean side? In other words, how do you decide it's time to do a mini cut? Meaning, I wonder at the peak of your bulk, if you are still actually really lean and a mini cut may not really have been warranted. And this is an amazing question, like I said, and there's so many ways to take this. My personal standards are definitely skewed towards the lean side, and I definitely worry too much about staying too lean. It's the curse of a bodybuilder, especially a natural one. However, it is a mistake to think that staying lean is the only reason to minicut. The time to minicut is when further massing wouldn't be as productive as if you took a month out to minicut and then continued massing. For example, you could be struggling with the super high calories and having a lack of appetite. If you don't have the appetite to eat the calories you need to mass, then you aren't going to be able to stick to the mass, so that mass isn't going to be productive. So you'd minicut. It doesn't matter about your aesthetic and your preference of fluffy. Even if you look super lean to other people, if you have zero appetite, then taking a cut can give you a more productive gaining phase after that cut. And another thing could just be psychological burnout of pursuing a goal. I had been gaining for 10 months after my last show, and that is 10 months of high volume, super hard, heavy hypertrophy training and eating a lot of food at the same time. That gets difficult psychologically, that gets difficult to just always pound away at that same goal. A mini cut can be a nice step back, a change of pace, a change of goal, a change of scenery, and then when you go back to massing, you're so refreshed, so much more motivated that everything you're going to do is going to be way more productive. And then just to touch on the aesthetic side of things, let's say yes, your personal preferences are too skewed towards the lean side of things. Does that actually change anything? Because let's say you know that your preferences are on that lean side of things, so you push a bulk way beyond where you're comfortable in terms of your aesthetics. Are you actually going to be in the back of your head holding yourself back? Because I've done it before, guys. I've been trying to gain weight when I didn't actually want to. I wasn't committed to the process. And do you know what I did? If I was supposed to be having 20 grams of peanut butter, I would get 17 on the spoon and then I'd say, that'll do, it's close enough. 100 grams of oats, 98 grams, that'll do. And all these grams that you miss, they add up. If I was on a diet, I wouldn't be missing out on 3 grams of peanut butter. I'd be smashing that shit. So when you go into a mass phase and you're not fully committed to it, it's not going to be fully productive. So even if your psychology is skewed towards the bit too lean side of things, maybe that's how you need to approach it to be productive in a massing phase. There's also the whole thing of resensitization. You are taking a step back away from those super high volumes of training. You get some resensitization, especially if you then follow your mini cut of a deload like you should be. When you go back into massing, you need to do way less to get the same hypertrophic response. However, I'm going to make a full detailed video, like I said, about all the reasons to mini cut, and this answer here is essentially going to be that video, but in way more detail. So hopefully that answered your questions. I absolutely loved a lot of these questions and I appreciate you asking them so much. If I didn't address any of your questions or concerns around mini cuts, you can email them to me, ashmaypt@gmail.com. You can leave them in the comment section below, or you can contact me through my online coaching company, which is Progressive Physique Coaching. You can find the top link in the description to go right there and see all the details. Thank you for your comments. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and until next week, see you later, guys.